On episode 43 of Flickering Dreams, we review the following films: Ferrari, The Boy and the Heron, Priscilla, Anyone But You, Next Goal Wins, and One Life. We also have another episode of our movie quiz with Emma just in the lead ahead of Scott and Andy. That's all on Flickering Dreams. Today we are back after our adventures with the top 20 films and the worst 10 films in the last episode, which was just a few days ago. We are catching up with some of the set of films which we didn't get to review and report on over Christmas. So let's start with just some intros around the room. I'm Bob Mann from One Man's Movies. I also do film reviews on BBC Radio Solent. In fact, tomorrow or today, when this podcast comes out, I'm doing the 3:30 to 4 o'clock slot, talking about the Golden Globes, which maybe we'll cover in AOB later in the programme. Emma?
I'm Emma Sewell. I'm from Emma at the Movies, and you can find me all over random social media.
Andy?
My name's Andy Godfrey. I write for Sorted Magazine, the world's leading wholesome men's magazine. I also review films on Connect Radio, and I help run the Mark Commode Appreciation Society.
After Christmas, I feel a very wholesome man. I need to get to the gym more. Scott?
Hi, my name's Scott Forbes, and you can find me on Facebook at Forbes Film and TV Review.
Okay, that's great. And we're going to kick off tonight with a review of Ferrari, which came out... when did it come out? Boxing Day, wasn't it? Yes, Boxing Day. Andy, do you want to introduce this to us?
Yeah, sure. One of the great ambitions of my life is to drive a Ferrari. I've driven a Lamborghini round a track, but not a Ferrari, so this was a particular interest to me. Here's a clip.
The corner races at you. You have perhaps a crisis of identity. Am I a sportsman? Or a competitor? If you get into one of my cars, you get in the win.
Wow. Yes, this film seems to have got quite a lot of stick from the critics. What did we make of it? Let's stay with you, Andy, to start with.
I'm going to give it a little bit of stick because I was slightly disappointed. It's very much about Enzo's personal life. It's about his relationships. It's about his family. It's about his business dealings. There's not so much about the cars as I'd hoped there would be, but that's because, as I've said, one of my ambitions has always been to own one and to drive one, and that's never going to happen probably. I thought that the acting was superb. I thought that the performances were great. I thought that the stuff involving the cars, one particular moment which is based on a true incident where, shall we say, people got hurt, is very graphically portrayed, very dramatically portrayed, very, very well portrayed. But I was slightly disappointed. I wanted to see a bit more about the cars and a little less more about his personal life. That said, if I go and see it again, which I may well do, I should probably enjoy it more on a second viewing because I know what's coming and I can appreciate more what was going on behind the scenes as this guy was developing his cars in the 50s and so on. So I thought it was a good, solid biopic.
Yeah. That also struck me as well. It struck me very much like Grand Prix, the John Frankenheimer film from, when was it, 1966?
Yes.
That
Steve McQueen, wasn't
it? James Garner. James Garner.
Sorry.
But it was, if you went to that film wanting to see lots and lots of motor racing action, you would probably be a bit disappointed because a lot of it was kind of melodrama and love stories behind the scenes of the races.
This is in a similar mould.
Yes, similar mode. Scott, I think you've seen Ferrari as well.
I did. This was the first of my triple bill on Boxing Day that I saw, and I have to say I had a great time with it. I thought, as much as the race car stuff was fascinating, I quite enjoyed the business dealings and that side of Enzo's life and career. But as much as it's been getting stick for some of the personal stuff, I really enjoyed that as well. The relationship drama that's going on with him and his wife, played brilliantly by Penelope Cruz, was fascinating with her sort of that flair and temper that she's showing. I think there was a little bit of talk about awards, which has kind of died down a wee bit for her now, but I thought she was excellent. And then you've got the other relationship involved that I won't say too much about for people that haven't seen it yet. But I thought the balance of his life and how he spread himself personally and career-wise was great. I thought Adam Driver was almost unrecognisable compared to what we've seen him in before, not just because of the hair, but I think this is one of the best performances I've seen him give. And on top of that, you could add things like sound design, great, costumes, cinematography. I think there's a lot of great craft work in there. Decent score as well. So I was very, very impressed with Ferrari.
Yeah, I have to say I'm with you on that. I was kind of went into it expecting it to be not a good watch, and I found myself transfixed by it. I thought the motor racing scenes were fantastic. What there was of that, and as you said, Andy, that scene towards the end of the film was wow. That was really. I thought it. Curiously, in the trailer, that's the bit that I thought. Well, the special effects for that look a bit dodgy to me, but the actual thing, end to end, as you saw it, was really you thought it was going to go a particular way. There was a family sitting down to dinner with two young children, and you kind of think, well, I know what's going to happen now. But it didn't happen that way at all, and that was a real big surprise for me. And like you, I thought the personal stuff was really good. I mean, Shailene Woodley is one of my favourite actresses as well. I didn't think she was quite as good in this as I've seen her in other films. I thought Penelope Cruz was absolutely fantastic. And if she did get some awards attention, I wouldn't have any difficulty with that at all. There is a fabulous scene in this film where she is grieving the loss of her one and only son, and she's smiling at his picture in a crypt. And she turns in like a period of 10 seconds or so, or 15 seconds, from smiling at this picture to utter grief. And it is like, you think, well, that section is the 10 seconds that are going to be on the Oscar reel, right, if she gets nominated, because it is just a phenomenal piece of acting, I thought, from her. Yeah. So, yeah, I think it was good. And I went as far as giving it an 8 out of 10 for me. Andy?
7 for me, Bob. I'll give it 7.
7. And Scott?
I can't remember if I wrote down an 8 or a 9, but I'm going to say 8.
8. Okay. So that's 22. That gives us 7.33 as the Flickering Dreams score for Ferrari, which is a supercharged hit. Yeah. Good. Okay. What do those other critics know, right? Yeah. They may have seen Typist Artist Pirate King, but they didn't give Ferrari a good score.
Which one describes?
Well, I'm not going to get you started. I'm not going to get you started on that, Andy. Yeah, enough. Right, we will. We're going to move on now to look at a new film from Japan, and that is The Boy and the Heron. Scott, can you introduce that to us?
I can indeed. It is the newest film from Hayao Miyazaki, the latest Studio Ghibli movie. We see a young boy who ventures into the woods and finds himself on a fantastical adventure. Here's a clip.
A lot of strange things happen in this place. I just hope he stays safe.
Save me.
Save me, my dog.
What exactly are you?
Your mother. She's awaiting your rescue.
Well, that sounds like the stuff of nightmares. Scott, do you want to carry on?
Sure. So, for me, I came to the Studio Ghibli films quite only in recent years, really, through one of my friends. And I've had an interesting relationship with these films, often because there's not many that I fall in love with on first watch. With some of them, on subsequent viewings, I still hate them. And on other viewings, I turn completely the other way and absolutely love them. So, going into this one, I was excited because it's a Studio Ghibli film. It comes with all the acclaim and anticipation. And I think it's like the third time Miyazaki's come out of retirement to make a film. So that brings with it a lot of weight. Honestly, I was a bit disappointed, unfortunately. I think this film had a lot going on, and some of it is very clever, but based on this first viewing, I found it often confusing and a little bit messy. There's a lot of ideas at play. We see a lot of themes and emotions going on, and the fact that they're going back and forth with these fantastical creatures, people going through the living and the dead, mixing everything together, going through different worlds. I think it has the potential to be something amazing, and potentially, if I was to revisit it in a year or two with fresh eyes, maybe I'll get more from it on subsequent viewings. But on a first-time viewing, with the amount of hype that a film like this has, I am sad to say that I was a little bit disappointed in this one.
Okay. Andy, how about you?
I absolutely just want to echo everything Scott just said. For me, with Studio Ghibli, I tend to like the less fantastic, more fantastical ones. So things like When Marnie Are There is my actual favourite Studio Ghibli film, which doesn't have all these weird creatures. It's just basically a time travel story about friendship. I echo what Scott said. I think they threw everything at this but the kitchen sink, and probably the kitchen sink is in there somewhere. It's too long. It's too long. It's nearly 2 hours, around about 2 hours. I thought that there was a really good movie struggling to get out of it. There's too many concepts, too many ideas, too much thrown at you. Now, I saw the dubbed version. Whether, if I go back and see the original language subtitled, I don't think that's going to make an awful lot of difference, to be honest, to me. I just really want to echo everything Scott just said. I was disappointed.
Okay. And Emma, you've seen this one as well, haven't you?
I have. You're gonna yell at me. This is the first Studio Ghibli film I've seen.
Oh, we are going to yell at you in that case.
I know most of them by sight, and you obviously seen clips of stuff, but I've never watched a whole one. So I think I only partly knew what I was getting myself into when I went to see it. I will say the experience was great. I saw it at the London Film Festival, surrounded by people who absolutely loved what they were about to see. And that did make a difference. As Andy said, it is very long, though, which I was not expecting.
Oh.
And I don't know. In my head, this sort of film is like an hour and 40, maybe. So I did feel like it was dragging a little.
2 hours, 4 minutes, isn't it?
Yeah. So there are bits of it I enjoyed, but as has already been said, there were just a lot of things. And as my first watch from the studio, I don't think it was the best choice I made. But I do have the others on my watch list, and I'm sure once I appreciate some of the other ones, I will be more on board. But I was entertained, but it just wasn't really for me.
Okay. Oh, sounds like this might be a struggle for Studio Ghibli. Scores on the doors, Scott?
Regrettably, I'm going for 5 out of 10 on this one.
5. Andy?
I enjoyed the music, so I'm going to go for 6.
6. And Emma?
It was a 5 from me as well.
5. That's 16 divided by 3 is 5.33, I'm afraid, for The Boy and the Heron, which makes it a Studio Ghibli miss from us. Okay. It's been doing very good business in the US, hasn't it? Despite what we
Incredible.
think. So, yeah. Okay, we're moving on then to another new film which came out actually on January the 1st, this one. It was in cinemas on Boxing Day in 70mm format, I think, but it got a general release on New Year's Day, and that is Priscilla, the new film, which is an interesting accompaniment to Baz Luhrmann's Elvis from last year. Emma, can you introduce Priscilla to us?
Yeah, sure. So we meet Priscilla, who is a shockingly young girl, which I didn't realise, and her very meteoric rise when she meets Elvis and starts a relationship with him. Here's a clip.
Don't go imagining things.
Like Aunt Margaret? Scooby?
That's it, woman. I don't want to hear another word.
Was there something you're hiding?
I don't have a goddamn thing to hide. You're just being too goddamn aggressive and demanding. You know, I think you should go see your parents for a little while.
What? I'm not going!
I think you should. Matter of fact, I'll help you. Start packing. Joe! Yeah, what's up? Joe, get Stella on the next flight out of here. She's gonna go see her parents for a little while. Get her ticket out of here.
So, that is Priscilla. Emma, do you want to start with your view of that? I think it's you, me, and Andy that have seen this one.
So, I'm not very familiar with the history of Elvis and Priscilla. As I say, I was very shocked to find out how young she was. And so seeing that was quite interesting, got me engaged, like seeing where exactly that relationship goes. I thought the style of it was amazing. Like the costumes, the setting, everything was absolutely fantastic. But for a film that's called Priscilla, there was an awful lot of Elvis, which I know is obviously going to happen. However, it would have been nice, I think, to have more from her point of view and the isolation that she was feeling. And it's, like you say, we've already had Elvis last year. It's a very good companion piece to that, I suspect, for some people. But I think it was really just missing something for me. I did like the way that they managed to cover up the fact they hadn't got any of the music, though, which I thought was really impressive. Like, I noticed it wasn't right, but I was still like, oh yeah, this is right. So they certainly did it.
Was there no Elvis music at all in?
I don't believe so.
I don't think so. Bob.
Was there not?
No.
Oh, in that case, it was very clever because I mean, I thought the music was really good that they used throughout, and I thought it was quite clever that because it was Priscilla and it wasn't Elvis that they'd done that. But I thought the scene in Vegas where he did his shiny suit and silhouette on the stage, I thought that was Elvis, but maybe it wasn't. Maybe it was. It sounded like Elvis.
Well, exactly, and I wouldn't necessarily have known any different. It's just that when we came out of the screening, my friend happened to mention it to me, and I was like, "Oh, I thought it wasn't ones I recognised. Just thought they'd maybe gone off, and done their own thing because of the other Elvis movie." But yeah, so I enjoyed it, but I think it was weighted a little bit wrong for me and what I was looking for.
All right, Andy.
Too many montages. That's all I'm going to say. I thought that there were too many montages. I thought that it was just a bog standard biopic. Again, nothing revolutionary in the way the story is told. And as Emma says, I would like to have seen a little bit more focus on, Priscilla's emotions, on her sense of isolation. There are scenes where you see her in Graceland where she's just sitting on a couch on her own, milling around, obviously bored stiff, wondering what to do with herself. waiting for Elvis to come back from whichever movie he's made next, whichever terrible movie he's made next very often. I think that being an Elvis fan, I did know the history, and I loved Baz Luhrmann's film. This kind of felt like a B picture alongside what would be an A picture. So going back to days when we were young, Bob, and you'd go and see a double bill, and you'd have a B picture and an A picture. This would have been the B picture. Baz Luhrmann's Elvis would have been the A picture. I didn't think there was anything remarkable about the way the story was told in terms of the way it was photographed or directed or whatever. But I did think there were too many montages and not enough. It didn't feel like an in-depth look at Priscilla's life. Let's put it like that.
Mm-hmm. I would actually disagree with that. I thought it was a very clever film from Sofia Coppola. I mean, as I was listening to the Commode review on Commode and Mayo's Take, that small little movie review podcast that I sometimes listen to, and he said it's very clever that they've been able to make a film about effectively a side character, and make it compelling, even though she is as Emma, you rightly say, almost shunted to the side in everything that she does. And I did think it made a nice companion piece to Baz Luhrmann's film, because in that, all of the focus is on the Colonel's relationship with Elvis, and the Colonel is making him go and do these shit films. And you almost feel like Elvis's relationship with Priscilla was almost like that frustration about his career getting vented down the chain, if you were, to her. So I thought that was really quite clever. And I thought the acting from Kaylee Spaney, I know she's in the frame for some awards, including the Golden Globe that's coming up. She's actually my tip to win the Golden Globe, which might be a little bit left field, but I thought it was a fantastic performance from her.
I would agree with you.
Going from the 14-year-old girl in the army base in Germany to be the made up doll, or the doll almost stuck in a little one of those Barbie cardboard cutout things that you saw at Cineworld last summer, right? Stuck in this cardboard case by Elvis and not satisfied sexually and not taken out and shown to anybody, not allowed to have her own decisions. I thought that was I could see Elvis fans not enjoying this, because it does cast Elvis in a much more negative light than the first film did. And I thought Jacob Elordi, again, I mean, I kept reminding myself, hang on a minute, this is Jacob Elordi, who a couple of weeks ago played Felix with a posh English accent in Saltburn, and he's Australian. Right? I mean, I thought he is such a chameleon character. I thought he was very, very good Elvis in this, and he actually played it really well. So, I enjoyed it. I mean, I wouldn't put it up there as being in contention for best film or anything, but I thought it was quite a cleverly made film and beautifully photographed. And
I just did a quick Google search, and there is no actual Elvis in the film.
Oh, right.
Apparently, the Elvis Presley estate told Sofia Coppola, "We do not participate in things we don't originate."
Oh, right. Okay.
So.
Good. Okay. So scores on the doors. I gave this one a 7 out of 10. Emma?
I just had to double check my score, so I actually gave it a 4.
Okay. And Andy?
A 6. 6 for me.
A 6. Oh, so that's 17 divided by 3 is 5.66, I think, for the Flickering Dreams.
We're really making you work for this maths this week.
Yeah, you are. It's all the fractions, isn't it? Yeah. New year, new maths, yes. And I've got a piece of paper and writing it down. It makes it a lot easier, yeah. So that makes Priscilla from Sofia Coppola, unfortunately, a Flickering Dreams miss. That's 1 hit and 2 misses so far today. Right. Maybe a new year, but we don't get away from this.
There we go.
It's Dr. Bob's movie mystery montage. And if you've all got your piece of paper, I'm going to show you 5 clips of a film which is in the top 1,000 box office films of all time. And you've got to try and guess it without putting a wrong answer down, ideally. Scores on the doors for the quiz so far. Emma is currently in the lead with 100 points, but hot on her heels now are Scott and Andy with 80 points each. And Dan, who's only taken part in one, has got 20 points. Right, so without further ado, if I can find the right clip, here's your first picture for this mystery film.
I'm so tempted to write something down.
Go on, Andy. Go for it.
Well, I mean, you might be right. You might get 50 points for it.
I know.
Or it might be minus 10 at the end of the day. Right.
I might go for the next one.
Okay, here comes picture number 2.
Can't see it. Thank you, Lord, that I didn't write anything down. Scott looks like he's writing.
Oh no.
Scott's tempted.
Please let it be wrong.
Okay.
I'm going to take a chance.
Here comes picture number 3. Emma, you're looking smug. Have you written something down?
I have written something down.
Yeah. There we go. Well, you might be the right one.
I never know.
Okay. And here's picture number 4.
Yeah.
I'm fairly glad I wrote something down, I think.
And finally, picture number 5.
Yeah.
Which is quite an easy one, I think. So, what have you got, guys?
Oh.
Life of Pi at number 3. Life of Pi at number 2. Life of Pi at number 4, Andy. So who came top? Scott.
Yeah.
You came top, so you get 40 points. Emma gets 30 points. Right. So feeding those into the great number generator, that puts Emma on 130 points, Scott on 120 points, and Andy on 100 points, moving into the next thing.
Wasn't Scott only 10 points behind me?
No, 20 points behind you. Yeah.
Ah.
Yeah. So the answer obviously was Life of Pi, directed by Ang Lee. And that was about 180 in the list of all-time box office films, which surprised me it was as high.
Because, you know, I'll just make it a thing now. I haven't seen that either.
Yeah.
We are
We're going to have to... Yeah, E.T. We need a weekend, lock Emma away to watch E.T., Studio Ghibli films,
Life of Pi,
and Life of Pi. Yeah, all of those. Yeah, type yourself Spike. But then you're going to lock us all in a deep cellar to watch that, aren't you, Andy?
I'm on my way.
Right, we're back to the film reviews now, and coming up next is a romantic comedy. And this could cause a little bit of disagreement. If you listen to our last episode, you'll know that the biggest disagreement we had during 2023 was around Genie, the most diverse scores. This one might influence that as well for 2024, but we'll see.
Get my popcorn out, Bob. Let's sit and enjoy this one.
Get your popcorn out. The film we're going to talk about is Anyone But You, and it's not bloody Shakespeare, but actually it is bloody Shakespeare, because it is another slightly dodgy remake of Much Ado About Nothing. And in this film, Bea and Ben are two young people who hate each other, but they have to pretend to love each other. Here's a clip.
Let's just tell everyone we're together.
What?
Could be kind of fun.
There's no way we can convince anyone we actually like each other.
Trust me. We're at a wedding, a million miles away from home. Who knows what could happen? Convincing enough?
One thing's for damn sure, if Sydney Sweeney falls overboard, she got some flotation devices there. We are going to have disagreements on this one. Let's start with Andy, shall we?
If they had called it Much Ado About Nothing, they would have been much more accurate. I thought this was unbelievably rubbish. I thought it was garbage. Within 5 minutes of the film starting, I didn't care to quote the great Douglas Adams, knowing we were going to Australia, a pair of fetid dingo's kidneys, about what was happening on the screen or about anyone on the screen. It was obvious. The jokes fell flat. It's so blatantly plotted. You know exactly where it's going. I saw it with 9 other people, 2 of whom walked out, and they would have been able to tell me the ending of the film. That's why they walked out. Predictable from start to finish, over the top, not one joke that hits the mark, vomit-inducing, terrible, terribly scripted, badly acted, over the top, rubbish.
Right.
Thank you.
Hang on a second. I'm just going to book a ticket to see it tomorrow.
I put it. I didn't even fall into the category for me of so bad. It's good. The plot was so obvious right from the start, and I thought that the acting was over the top. It reminded me a little bit of my Big Fat Greek Wedding 3, only this was my Big Fat Australian Wedding. The coincidences in the plot are quite unbelievable, to be honest. The way in which this couple pretend to like each other, and then they don't like each other, and then they fall in love. Get on with it. Get it over and done with. Get over yourselves. Go get a room. I don't care. I don't want to see any more of this. Oh, look, they're doing Titanic in Sydney Harbour. Is she going to fall off the boat? Yes, she is. Spoiler alert. I mean, it's just...
Come on,
rubbish.
Andy. You have to admit that the guy saying they've gone the full Titanic, that was a funny line.
No,
one made me laugh.
Because I said it 2
yes,
minutes.
It was.
No, it wasn't, because I said it 2 minutes before he did, because I knew what he was going to say, and therefore it wasn't funny. It was obvious what he was going to say.
Oh, you're going to do me chest no good here, Andy.
I mean, you know... Go, Scott.
Possibly,
Go on, Scott, defend it, please.
With just possibly a contrary view, Mr. Scott Forbes.
Yeah, Andy's right. This was terrible. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. So, with this one, for me, yes. So, when I saw the trailer, I did think this looks completely generic. I do know exactly what's going to happen, but you know what? It might be okay. Let's see what it's like. I went into this one, and from very early on, the meet cute had me. I thought it was really sweet. It was funny. I was on board. Just in terms of the main cast, Glenn Powell, I've been saying for a few movies now, is the next big American leading man. For me, he's like a young Tom Cruise, Richard Gere. I think he's got that potential to be that big. And Sydney Sweeney, she's like a modern Cameron Diaz for me as well. She's been doing she was great, amazing in the TV show Euphoria, and she's just building her career into films now. So we've got 2 very attractive people who we meet, they fall in love, they had great chemistry. I don't know what you're seeing, Andy. The chemistry between them was fire. And then we get all the set-up comedy bits, but they were funny. And then you've got all the side characters that are adding to that were funny. And so when you go and see a romantic comedy, when it's very romantic and it's very funny, what more can you ask about it? This is one of those films, to me, that will go down as one of the biggest surprises of the year. I had it, you'll have seen last week, in my top 20 of 2023. I think this is one of the best romantic comedies that there's been in years. I am fully on board. I'm very surprised how much I loved this. But yeah, one of the best films of the year.
There you go. Where will I sit in this? Will I be on Andy's side or will I be on Scott's side? I'm actually kind of a little bit in the middle between you two guys. I thought it was quite a decent romantic comedy. I mean, I wouldn't. This is not a particularly spoiler that there are romantic relationships at the end of the film, right? But I wouldn't give them like 3 months, right? No chance. Right? Marriage, 40 years, no chance, right? But as a rom-com, I thought it stood up pretty well. I mean, the other famous, there's obviously been a version of Much Ado About Nothing with the likes of Emma Thompson in it and so on, which was straight Shakespeare. There was also 10 Things I Hate About You, which was a much better film, I thought, than this film. But I thought it's half decent. I laughed quite a few times. I thought the way in which they inserted Shakespeare, either written text into the piece or as spoken dialogue, was actually quite clever. And when it comes out as dialogue, the person saying it says, "Oh, yeah, that was clever, wasn't it? I just made it up." I quite like that as a running joke through the film. Yeah, I thought it was good. Having been recently, as in year before last, to Sydney and seeing all the sights, there's a lovely couple of scenes overlooking Bondi Beach where the wedding is, and she actually walks through Bondi Beach at one point, and the seats downtown Sydney. I thought that was really nice and scenic, and I enjoyed that. Yeah, I thought it was okay. I mean, I went to see this on my own, and I've already suggested that I go back and take the wife to see it as well, because I think it's the sort of film that she will enjoy. I agree with you about Glenn Powell. I think he's that sort of square-jawed hunk. He keeps saying in the film he's 29, and it's a bit of a joke. He's actually 35 years old, and so he's not a young up-and-coming leading man, right? He's 35. Sydney Sweeney is actually 26. So there is an age gap there, but I didn't think it made a difference to the film. So I gave this one a 7 out of 10. Scott?
I think I should put it up to try and counter Andy, but I give this one 9 out of 10.
9 out of 10. And Andy, stop doing the maths, Andy.
I gave it a 3.
Stop it now.
I gave it a 3, but that's only because the views were nice.
12. So that's 9. Oh, more maths. Look at this. 19 divided by 3 is a 6.33, I'm afraid, for Anyone But You, which makes it a down under miss. A down under miss again. Right.
Emma, you've got to take it up next week.
Yep.
No, I know what's going to happen. Scott's going to see Typist Artist Pirate King and give it a 0 deliberately now, regardless of whether he loves it or not.
Yeah, this could be another Saw X next week that we revisit.
My plan, because I finish at sort of lunchtime on Fridays, my plan tomorrow is to do a triple bill of Night Swim, Anyone But You, and Ferrari. So we'll see.
Okay.
We will see.
Yeah, Night Swim looks a bit dodged to me, but we'll see. Yeah. Right, we are going to move on from Anyone But You to look at Next Girl Wins, which also came out on Boxing Day, I think. Who's introducing that? Andy, you're introducing that.
Yeah, having said that the plot of Anyone But You is so obvious beyond belief, the plot of Next Girl Wins, the way it unfolds, is pretty obvious as well. That said, I really, really enjoyed this. Massive football fan. I hadn't seen the documentary. I've now seen the film. Here's a clip.
What the? I can't work with these guys. For them, it's like some sort of game.
It is a game, Thomas.
That's it, Jaya. Leadership. Now we're making some progress. Dear Lord, thank you for sending us Mr. Ongen. We've become quite attached to him. It's like finding a little lost white kid at the mall and telling him which way to go.
Yeah. I thought it was really nice to see Michael Fassbender in a non-serious role, right? Yeah. As the coach. Do you want to start?
Yeah, the story of the world's worst football team who spend a great deal of time praying that they might score a goal. Not that they might win a game, that they might actually just score one goal, having lost, and it's still the world record, 32-0 to Australia in an international match in 2010. America Samoa were the world's worst football team. It's a really interesting film. If you watch, I haven't seen the documentary, but I'm told that there are some significant differences. There are dramatic, plays in the film that never happened in real life. For example, there's a transgender character who he gives the captaincy to of the team in the film, but that never happened in real life. It was the goalkeeper who was the captain. So there are discrepancies. Nevertheless, this is a very, very, for me, entertaining, funny, laugh out loud, brilliant, lovely film. I really enjoyed it. I'm a huge football fan, and I thought that the action was well photographed. Obviously being a Rev, I enjoyed the moments where training is interrupted to have a prayer session. I thought that was very, very funny, and we've just seen there a prayer. That's kind of the way that I talk to the boss, if I'm honest with you. It just felt like a very down to earth human story, triumph over adversity. I really enjoyed it.
Good. You've seen this one as well. I think we've all seen this film.
Yeah, all right. So I really enjoyed this one. I love a sport film anyway. Which everyone seems surprised at when I tell them, I love watching sport films. I just thought all the chemistry between the characters was just really great. My only real quibble with it is Taika Waititi. Like, he loves putting himself in his films, and fine, but his parts were so jarring compared to the rest of the movie that it just really annoyed me. But I just thought it's a lovely way to do it, and I'm interested to see the documentary about it, because I just think, okay, they have taken some liberties, but from the few clips that were at the end of the film, and then a couple I saw online afterwards, it just makes me think that yes, there was this camaraderie, and just the way that they've gone about everything just feels like authentic. That's the right word to use.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I mean, Taika Waititi, I find has got. I have a love-hate relationship with him. I think there are times when he can go completely over the top and end up very, very quickly in bad taste areas, particularly when he's acting in films, when presumably he's ad-libbing a lot of the stuff that he does. And there was that scene in Free Guy, which was otherwise quite a good film, where he went ranting off about cancer, which absolutely turned me off the whole film because of his involvement. In this, I agree with you that his character really stood out as being zany in what was trying to not be quite such a zany film. I did actually find it very funny, and there is a monkey in this film, a post-credit scene, which if you stayed for, which I thought was really funny with him doing something very religious, which Andy probably doesn't approve of, but was also done at the end of the Da Vinci Code, which I thought was very blasphemous as well. But Scott, what did you make of it?
Yeah, so I actually did see the documentary a few years ago and absolutely loved that movie. So I went into this one knowing a bit of background, sort of knowing what had happened already. As Andy said, it does take liberties, and Taika in his role did say that at the start of the film, that they took liberties in it, so he made it very obvious. As Andy mentioned, there's the point with Jaya, who is a trans character, who there's that scene, she said, Fassbender gives her the captain's armband. Yes, that didn't happen in real life. It was for dramatic effect. But I didn't care. That was probably my favourite point in the movie. I thought it had such a big emotional impact, and it made sense from the way he took the story. Overall, I enjoyed it. It was a good, fun film. Some of the comedy worked. I also have an issue with Taika Waititi in that I think he's a brilliant filmmaker, but I've never been a fan of his comedy. I would actually love it to see him try to make a just straight drama movie, because it might be fantastic. But I just don't know that he's got any interest in doing that. For me, I liked Fassbender in the role. I thought he was well cast in the end. I am still very curious what it would have been like with Armie Hammer, as it was supposed to be, and it had been filmed with Armie Hammer. Hence why there was such a delay after his controversies.
He was going to replace Will Arnett, wasn't he? So Will Arnett replaced his character, didn't he?
I thought Armie Hammer was the lead character.
No, he was Will Arnett came in as the character, yeah.
Ah, okay. I'm surprised there was such a delay then, because it wasn't that massive a role to replace. Okay.
No.
Huh. Okay, well, anyway, the matter is, it was a decent film. Part spoiler, I have given every single Taika Waititi film the exact same rating, and it continues here.
Okay. I thought it was a fun enough film to go and watch. My daughter actually took me to see this film, commenting that it's very much like Cool Runnings, and it did have that kind of Cool Runnings vibe, the kind of laid back kind of comedy. We get to laugh along with their quaint traditions and their idiosyncrasies of the other islanders, including the religion, as you said, Andy. And I really like the portrayal of Jaya. And actually, I really like the fact that it reflects the Samoan culture, which is very forward-thinking in terms of its gender relationships. They've got 4 genders: female, male, fa'afina, and fa'afatama, which basically sums up everything in the spectrum from male to female. And I really quite like that reflected in the film. Negatives, I mean, to be honest, I didn't really find it funny enough, or funny as it could have been. I think it got past the 6 last test for a comedy. I found it more smile-worthy than snort out loud funny. But it was still an enjoyable cinema trip. I gave that one a 7 out of 10. Scott, what's your standard Taika Waititi score?
I'm exactly with you. 7 out of 10.
7 out of 10. Emma?
So I have originally, I did give it a 10. However, I'm just super annoyed about Taika Waititi. I didn't really realise how annoyed I was, so I'm going to make it a 9.
Andy?
I'll give it an 8, Bob.
An 8. So that's going to be a hit, isn't it? That's 17, 24, 31. Divided by 4 is 7.66, is it? Yes, must be. 7.66, which is our highest score of the night. So that makes Next Goal Wins a hit. Right. Last film we're going to look at is One Life. And this stars Anthony Hopkins and Johnny Flynn in the story of Nicholas Winton, who came to the public's attention due to his war work reflected in the TV show That's Life, which probably Emma and Scott were not aware of. But Andy and I are creaky enough that we can remember Esther Ranson and, of course, Cyril Fletcher.
And the dog driving the car.
Dogs eating sausages and driving cars.
Yeah.
All sorts of nonsense. Here's a clip from it.
Now, an extraordinary story about a young man who many years ago visited Prague. What he found there were thousands of refugees at the mercy of Hitler's imminent invasion.
Do you ever think about the children and what happened to them?
Yeah, so I'll kick off on this one. I mean, I actually remember this episode of That's Life because it made quite a stir at the time, and I think it was very well portrayed. Indeed, the actual episode, and the lady who played Esther Ranson, I thought, I mean, it's very difficult to properly mimic that. Samantha Spiro, I thought she was very good, and the whole thing had the right kind of feel of a That's Life episode. And generally, I mean, it's got Anthony Hopkins in it, hasn't it? So, I mean, the acting is bound to be superb. I don't know which year this film falls into, whether it's a 2024 release as regards Oscars and awards attention. I assume it probably is, as opposed to 2023. But I thought both Anthony Hopkins and Johnny Flynn as well, who's come a long way from being Plaid Man in the Cineworld adverts. He's now really become a pretty solid leading man in a lot of really good major films. And Helena Bonham Carter as well, I thought, as playing his mother, who basically storms into ministry departments and says, "Now look here, let's sort this out, young man." I thought he was great. And it was great to have the two popes together again, Jonathan Pryce and Anthony Hopkins, in a kind of cameo scene over lunch. I thought that was great. The one piece of casting which did feel a little bit off for me was having Lena Olin as his wife, who's a Swedish actress. She's 17 years younger than Anthony Hopkins. And when the film started, I thought, what is the relationship here? Is it father-daughter? Now, I looked this up, and in real life, she was 10 years younger than Nicholas Winton. So, I mean, it's not a massive difference there, but I found that a little bit distracting in the big scheme of things. But overall, this tells a phenomenal story about this guy who was basically the English Schindler, helping children escape from the horrors of the Nazis. And it's particularly astounding that every child, in order to get the visa, had to have £50 of resettlement money. And you put that into the inflation calculator, and that comes out as £3,400 in today's money. You imagine going around saying, I want to save all these children in Gaza, say, we have to raise £3,400 for every one of them. And this was the days before social media and you could do crowdsourcing and so on. So it's just pretty astonishing what the guy did. So I think it's a really good untold, well, it's been told by That's Life before, but I think in terms of a movie, I think it's a really solid opportunity for the movie. The one negative I would have, other than a little bit on the casting, is I felt the story was a little bit too easy. You look into the actual history of it, which I've done, and there was lots of other stuff to do with bribing people and challenging officials on the train journeys that's kind of get glossed over. The kids get on a train, they end up at Liverpool Street Station, job done, right? And I thought there could have been more depth and more tension injected into the story based on some of the stuff that absolutely did happen on these perilous journeys for the kids. So that was my one thing. Who else has seen it? Andy and Emma, I think. Emma.
So although I hadn't seen the show originally, I have seen many times the clip that they obviously echo in the advertising for this, where, you know, he stands up and everyone is around him, and it gets me every time I see it. I bawl my eyes out. It's just like, yeah, so wonderful. And so I was really looking forward to seeing this, and I have to say, I was engrossed in it the whole way through. Although I will agree, and I hadn't actually thought about it before now, like, I did love the film entirely, but you are right, Bob, that actually bits of it could have been more in depth, a bit more variety of what they're telling about that tale, because it's each time you flash back, it is very similar in what is happening.
It's almost a rinse and repeat, isn't it?
Yeah, which, I understand that is obviously part of what happened, but yeah, you are right. There are a lot of other aspects, and I don't know whether that's potentially because it seemed to jump backwards and forwards quite quickly in some instances, and whether padding those out a little bit would have led us to those other stories. I don't know, but I certainly, I loved it. Although there were random bits in it I wasn't really sure about, like why on earth were all the kids playing around a pool? I just didn't really know why that was in there, but fine, whatever.
That was the party at the end when they all got together, wasn't it? And the kids were just playing in his pool.
I thought that ending was a little bit odd and a little bit
it was a little strange. And
Yeah.
as you said, Johnny Flynn being one of the Cineworld guys, I dislike him generally in films, but I actually thought he was very good.
Yeah.
And I did really enjoy his performance.
Good.
And although I can't see him growing up into Anthony Hopkins, but it's fine.
We all grow up into something, right? Andy, how about you? Anything to add?
Yeah, I often complain that films are too long. For me, this was too short. And I think it could have been padded out a bit, as you say, and I think a little bit more detail could have been added. I mean, you mentioned Schindler. This would make a great double bill. Double bills being a theme of tonight, with Schindler's List, because Schindler's getting ready to rescue Jews from Auschwitz. Nicholas Winton is already rescuing kids from Prague. And I thought it was a good story, fantastic story, really well told. Like you, I remember the That's Life episode, and so it was good to see a little bit more of the background of what led to that. But I felt this could have had a little bit more background. I wanted more detail. I wanted to know more. I wanted to know a little bit more about what happened on the train. So there's one very tense scene on the train, I think to do with the last train, isn't there, that didn't make it.
Yes.
But I think other than that, I think it's really good. Anthony Hopkins is always going to be value for money, and if it does qualify for the Oscars, I would have him as a top contender. I don't know whether it'd be best actor or best supporting actor for this particular role. But it is. It's one of those important films. It's one of those films where everybody sits and cries at the end, and you stay for the end credits, and nobody moves, and you kind of walk out with hope in your heart. But also, the tragic thought that this had to happen in the first place. I mean, it was just obviously horrific. So I thought it was excellent. I really enjoyed it, and as I said, I think it make a great double bill with Schindler's List. Schindler's List being a longer film, this could have been a bit longer. Well, but you get the full picture of what was kind of going on from all angles.
Yes, indeed. Okay. All right, score on the door, Andy.
9.
9 for you. I gave it an 8. Emma?
I gave it a 9.
9 as well. 26 then divided by 3 is definitely 8.66 then for One Life. Is that our highest score of the night? I think it is, yes. So that's definitely a hit for One Life. Very good. Okay. Right. That's our lot for this episode, but through miraculousness, we're going to end up back here wearing the same clothes, possibly in the same positions on the screen, because we're going to be recording another episode directly after this one. So may come out a day or two after this episode, but stay tuned, and we will talk briefly at the end of that one about the Golden Globes in Any Other Business. So thank you to Emma Sewell, Andy Godfrey and Scott Fawkes for this bit, and thank you for watching Flickering Dreams. Please subscribe by clicking on the button that appears any second now. All right, thanks very much, guys. See you soon.
Thank you so much for listening or watching Flickering Dreams. You can find the video version on YouTube and the audio version on all major podcast platforms. And don't forget to subscribe so you can get each of the weekly episodes as they are released. We'll see you at the movies.